So Catalyst Partners, one of the most prestigious boutique investment banks in tech M&A, asked this question in a recent interview. How do you calculate enterprise value?
Before we dive in, I want to flag something. Catalyst actually asks a slightly more complicated version of this question than you'll get at most other banks. They don't just ask you to define enterprise value. They give you a set of numbers from the company's balance sheet and ask you to calculate it on the spot. But in this video, we're going to do both. We're going to build the conceptual foundation first, and then we'll work through a realistic example with actual numbers so you're ready for whatever version of this question you get. Now, this question comes up constantly. It's not just at boutiques like Catalyst, but every bulge bracket bank, every mid-market bank, every PE interview you'll ever do. And it's one of those questions that sounds simple, but has a lot of nuance underneath it. And most candidates get the basic formula right, but when they push on it as an interviewer, the logic or the actual concepts begin to disintegrate. And so to nail this question, you need to understand four things. First off, what does enterprise value actually represent conceptually? Second, the formula and every component in it. Third, why each component is included or actually excluded. And fourth, how to work through a live example with numbers. So if you're new here, I'm Max Adams, the head coach at Wall Street Mastermind. I started my career in tech investment banking at Lazard and Catalyst, and now I run coaching at Wall Street Mastermind, where we've helped over 2,100 students to land offers at every bulge bracket and elite boutique bank on Wall Street. So let's get into it. So what is enterprise value? Before we talk about how to calculate it, let's make sure we understand what enterprise value actually is. Because if you understand the concept, the formula is going to make intuitive sense instead of feeling like something you just memorized. So enterprise value simply is the total value of a business, regardless of how it's financed. So think about it this way. Let's say that you want to buy a house and the house has a market value of $1 million, but there's also a $400,000 mortgage on it. So if you buy that house, you're not just paying $600,000 of equity value, you're assuming responsibility for that $400,000 of debt. And so the true cost of acquiring that house is $1 million, the full enterprise value, not just the $600,000 equity check. So enterprise value works the same way as companies. When you acquire a business, you're acquiring everything, the equity, but also the debt. And you get to keep the cash sitting on the balance sheet. So the enterprise value represents the total acquisition value of a business, what it would actually cost you to buy the whole thing, debt and all, net of the cash that you'd inherit. So this is why the enterprise value is sometimes called the takeover value or the acquisition value of a company. It's what the buyer would have to pay in total to own the business free and clear. And that's also why enterprise value is the right number to use when you're comparing companies or valuing businesses, because it's capital structure neutral. It doesn't matter whether a company finances itself with a lot of debt or a lot of equity. Enterprise value just strips all that away and tells you what the underlying business is worth. So let's get into the formula. The basic enterprise value formula is enterprise value equals equity value plus debt minus cash. Let's break that down each piece in a little more detail than most candidates ever get to. So equity value. This is the market cap, and this is market capitalization, whatever it's called. It's the value of the company that belongs to the equity holders. So for a public company, you calculate simply, it's the share price times the shares outstanding. So if a company has 100 million shares outstanding, its stock trades at $20 per share, the equity value is going to be 100 million times 20, or 2 billion. Now, for a private company, you don't actually have readily observable share price. So equity value has to be derived from valuation. And that's why we do things like DCF, comps, precedent transaction. But for most interview questions, you'll be given the equity value or the share price and shares outstanding to calculate. Next piece is debt. So you add in debt because when you acquire a company, you're taking on its debt obligations. The buyer either has to repay the debt, refinance it, or assume it. Either way, it's a cost of the acquisition. So it gets added to the equity value. Now, when we say debt here, we mean the interest-bearing debt. So this is the term loans, the revolving credit facilities, bonds, note payable. We're not talking about operating liabilities like accounts payable or accrued expenses. Those are part of the working capital and are treated separately. The debt we're talking about is financial debt, which is the kind that you pay interest on. So then cash. You subtract cash because cash is a non-operating asset that the acquirer would inherit. And so if you're buying a company that has $200 million of cash sitting on its balance sheet, that cash offsets part of what you're paying. And so in theory, the acquirer could use that cash to immediately pay down debt or return it to the shareholders. So it reduces the effective cost of the acquisition. So to recap, you start with the equity, you add the debt burden you're taking on, and you subtract the cash that you're inheriting. So what you're left with is the total value of the operating business, the enterprise value. So let's go a level deeper and talk about the full formula, because that's where most candidates stop. Equity value plus debt minus cash. But Catalyst, and frankly, any sophisticated interviewer is going to push further, because the full enterprise value formula has a few more components into it. In fact, there are dozens, but we're just going to talk about the main additional complexities to enterprise value. So the complete formula is going to be enterprise value equals equity value plus total debt plus preferred stock plus minority interest minus cash and cash equivalents. So let's go through the two main additional items here, which are preferred stock and minority interest. So preferred stock. First off, this is a hybrid security. It has characteristics of both debt and equity. Preferred shareholders typically receive a fixed dividend, and they have a priority claim over common equity holders in a liquidation. Because the preferred holders have a claim on the business that common equity holders don't, preferred stock gets added to enterprise value just like debt does. So if you're acquiring a company that has $100 million of preferred stock outstanding, that's $100 million that you're effectively on the hook for. It needs to be paid out before common equity gets a dime. So it adds to the total cost of the acquisition. Now, minority interest. This is also called non-controlling interest. It comes up when a company consolidates a subsidiary on its financial statements, but doesn't actually own 100% of it. Under accounting rules, if you own more than 50% of a subsidiary, you consolidate 100% of its financials, the revenue, the EBITDA, everything, but you don't actually own 100% of it. The portion you don't own is the minority interest. So if a company owns 80% of a subsidiary and consolidates 100% of its financials, you need to add back the 20% minority interest to the enterprise value. Otherwise, your enterprise value only reflects 80% of the equity stake, but your EBITDA includes 100% of the subsidiary's earnings. So that's an apples to oranges mismatch. So we add minority interest to make the numerator, the enterprise value, consistent with the denominator, the fully consolidated EBITDA. And that's going to make the multiples, the enterprise value to EBITDA multiples, match. So here's the full formula one more time. Equity value plus debt, plus preferred stock, plus minority interest, minus cash and cash equivalents. Now, like I said, there's in reality infinite sort of complexities that you can add to this equation depending on the specific companies, but these are the basic pieces that are going to get you to the next level deeper in a technical interview. So let's work through an example with numbers. So let's put this into practice because that's where Catalyst and the other top banks are actually going to test you and ask the real number. So here are the facts. Let's say we have a company that has a share price of $25 and 80 million shares outstanding. It has $500 million of long-term debt and $50 million drawn on its revolving credit facility. It has $30 million of preferred stock outstanding and minority interest of $75 million on the balance sheet and $120 million of cash and cash equivalents. So let's calculate enterprise value step by step. So step one, what's the equity value? We've got $25 per share multiplied by 80 million shares, and that equals $2 billion flat of equity value. Step two, let's add the total debt. So long-term debt is going to be $500 million plus $50 million on the revolver equals $550 million of total debt. Now, note that some candidates forget to include the revolver. Any drawn portion of a revolving credit facility is debt. If it's undrawn, it doesn't count. It's just available capacity. But if the company is actually borrowed against it, it's debt and it goes in the formula. Step three, add preferred stock. So that's plus 30 million. Step four, add minority interest plus 75 million. Step five, subtract the cash minus 120 million. So now we add it up. We've got 2 billion equity value, 550 million debt, 30 million preferred, 75 million minority interest minus 120 million cash. So the enterprise value is going to equal 2.535 billion. And that's your answer. It's clean, it's sequential, no missed components. So what about the follow-up questions though? Interviewers, especially at firms like Catalyst that do a lot of complex tech M&A, will often ask one or more of these follow-up questions. So first they might say, okay, but what's the difference between enterprise value and equity value? Well, one of them is the total value of the business to all capital providers, debt, equity, preferred, whereas equity really only represents a portion of the value that belongs to the common shareholders. So enterprise value is capital structure neutral, equity value is not. They might ask conceptually, why do you subtract cash? Well, because cash is a non-operating asset. It's not part of the core business. It's just sitting on the balance sheet. And so an acquirer would inherit it and they can use it however they want. So it reduces the effective acquisition cost. You're essentially getting a rebate equal to the cash balance. But what about restricted cash? Well, restricted cash is cash that's legally set aside for a specific purpose and can't be freely used. And typically that doesn't get subtracted. Only freely available cash gets subtracted because restricted cash can't be used to offset the acquisition costs, and that trips up a lot of candidates. Why do you use enterprise value instead of equity value for valuation multiples? Well, great question, because EBITDA, EBIT, and revenue, they belong to all capital providers, the debt and the equity, not just the equity holders. So you have to use enterprise value in the numerator to match the denominator. If you used equity value or EBITDA, you'd be mixing a metric that belongs only to equity holders with a metric that belongs to everyone. It wouldn't be apples to apples, and so therefore we can't use those sort of metrics. So when your interviewer asks you how to calculate enterprise value, here's how to structure your answer in about 60 seconds. This is a Class A response that will get you to the next round. Great question. Enterprise value represents the total acquisition cost of a business. This is the value of the entire enterprise regardless of the capital structure. So you calculate it as equity value plus total debt, including any revolvers, plus preferred stock, plus minority interest, and then minus cash and cash equivalents. You add debt and preferred, and then because an acquirer assumes that those obligations are going to be part of their actual acquisition, and you add in the minority interest to match the fully consolidated financials. And then you subtract cash because it's a non-operating asset that the acquirer inherits and it can immediately deploy it. And so the result is a capital structure neutral measure of what the business is actually worth, which is why it's used as the numerator in valuation multiples like EBITDA and EBITDA revenue. Now that's it. That's a class A answer. It covers the concept, the formula, and the logic behind the components. That's perfect. So to summarize, enterprise value is equity value plus debt plus preferred plus minority minus cash. And each component has a logical reason for being excluded or included, and the best candidates don't just know the formula, they know the why behind it. And so if you're interviewing somewhere like Catalyst, make sure you can work through the math with actual numbers live, because that's what they're going to test you on. And the next time you got this question, you've got it. So if you want more hands-on coaching on enterprise value, valuation, M&A, LBOs, or any other technical or behavioral interview question from coaches who include former global heads of recruiting at Bank of America and JP Morgan, don't hesitate to reach out to us at Wall Street Mastermind. Link is in the description. And if this video was at all helpful, hit like and subscribe so we know to keep making more. Nothing worthwhile comes easy, and nothing's more important than your future and your career, so keep grinding.